Hello everyone, my name is Jillian and welcome to my ShotGrid tutorial. So what ShotGrid is a project tracking tool used mainly for animation and also visual effects. It is great for tracking films, especially senior capstone films. So that's what this tutorial is going to be geared towards, is capstone films at SCAD. My background is more in 3D, so this is going to reflect a bit more of the 3D pipeline, but a lot of this can be done and modified for other pipelines. Some things to keep note of is when you're given your ShotGrid link, make sure to bookmark it. ShotGrid links are specific to facilities, so SCAD has a specific ShotGrid link as to other studios would. So you can't go online and look up ShotGrid or shotgun.com and expect to come to our project. So I do want to do some special things before we get in, just a few. So Autodesk has some great tutorials. I'll link them below. That's what helped start all of this and taught me the basics. Additionally, Walt Disney Animation Studios on their website has a great in-depth page about learning pipeline. And in that, they had a screenshot of what they did for Encanto for their sequences page, which I copied. And copying is one big takeaway, is copying is the way to learn for ShotGrid. If you find something, especially someone professionally did, copy it, because you're going to learn so much while copying it, and then you can customize it to fit your needs. And then lastly, final special thanks is to Tony Aiello. He is a ShotGrid engineer over at Leica, and he was able to talk to me over the break. And I learned a lot more about ShotGrid. He looked at my ShotGrid. It was so cool. But yes, those are my thank yous. Thank you all. So our project has been made. So you'll need to reach out to your professor for your project to be made, and you'll need for yourself as a producer to receive the manager role. So first off, when you look at your project, it's going to look something similar to this. It might look a little different, and that's all okay. We're going to completely redo this all. We're going to do a whole makeover to it. So capture it in right now. Look at it, how it's so empty, but we're going to change everything so quickly. But yeah, so this main page is the overview page. People like to mirror it to like a Facebook main timeline page is what it's been referred to a lot. In the industry, typically the overview page is not there just because there's just so much that happens in the project. It would just constantly have new things left and right. But for us, we're going to keep the overview page. It's our project's typically smaller and it's good for a quick reference, but it is optional if you want to keep it or not. And we'll show you how to change that. So the first thing we're going to do is adding an icon and a banner. You can also change the name by just clicking this and just changing the name. Make sure it's within the naming conventions of your year. Sometimes it'll be like capstone name, but I'm going to leave it as Jillian example. We're going to upload a thumbnail. So we're hitting upload thumbnail, choose file. I'm going to go to my little box and I got my little icon right here. Just know that this icon is what you're going to see whenever you're looking at your project pages. So make sure it is specific to your project and something recognizable. And a lot of things that will happen on ShotGrid is it's going to take a minute for images to be fully loaded. So this is very common. Just give it a few minutes and it'll probably be fully loaded. So we're also going to change the header. It's called a billboard. So over here, there's upload billboard. We're going to hit that. There's the size requirements. And I just got this one. So I felt like it would work. But yeah, it's going to take a minute for them to load. Oh, look, that one instantly loaded. But yeah. All right. So our next step is adding people to our project. So way over here on the right hand, we have this little people tab. So there's me and the professor. So what I'm going to do is hit add people to the project. And I'm going to add one of my friends. So some things to keep in mind when you see this, when they have the little red X right here, that means their account has been deactivated. You'll have to reach out to a professor to reactivate the accounts. But yeah, so I'm going to hit my friend right there. And he has been added. So look, there's his little icon. There'll be like about 5 icons here. You don't really have a say in what those icons are. That's whatever ShotGrid chooses them to be. But yes, if your friend does not have a ShotGrid account, they will have to go to the professor and have the professor themselves create a ShotGrid account. Over here, there's info tab. I personally don't use it too much. You can add a lot by hitting that little settings button. And there's all this other stuff you can edit in if you'd like. You can put a little description, you can put the due date, whatever you like. It's all for funsies, but usually people don't look at it. So that's for you. So the next thing we're going to do is customizing this little tab right here, where it has all the quick access to all the pages we're going to use a lot. So this, first off, I do want to say this is all fully based off of personal preference. So I'm just showing you what makes sense to me. I advise to go with this so you can just like copy and then learn from there what you might actually need instead. So what we're going to do is go to the right and there's project actions and we're going to hit navigation. So we've been transported to a new page. And so this is what our bar currently looks like. And here's some pages we could also add in. So for our project, what I choose to do is I have overview, which is going to be our default page, schedule, and then assets. And then I do sequences. So right here, I put that in front of shots. Personally, I like sequences a lot more than shots. However, I've worked with people who like the shots page more, so I just keep the shots page for them. All right, and then we're going to take out media using the trash button. And then we're going to hit review. This is a very great page, guys. We're going to love this page so much. Hit review. And then we're going to take out crew. So what the crew page does, it shows every single ShotGrid account ever created. It is an insane page. So we're going to delete it. Instead, we are going to use the people. So the people is just going to be the people in our project will be on this page. So it's much more simplified. And if you are afraid of like, well, I still want to have access to the crew or the media pages, you still have access to them, and I'll show you how. So first, we're going to save this. And look, we have a new little bar. And look, we have our new little icon here. It's been finished uploading. But yeah, so if you're afraid of like all the other pages we lost, you'll just hit the little other tab right here, and here they all are. But these are the pages we're going to focus on. Some of these other pages are pretty cool. However, they're a bit more advanced. So we're going to keep it like somewhat simple, but we're still going to go a little crazy. So this might sound a little weird and out of order, but trust me in the process. We're first going to create, instead of going here and start adding everything, there's actually some stuff we're going to do beforehand that's going to help with making templates. And templates speed up things so much. But before we do a template, we need to make pipeline steps. So what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way to the top right, and then we're going to hit our little icon, and then we're going to go down to over here. We have pipeline steps. We're going to hit that. We're going to let it load. So there's a lot of little pipeline steps. A lot of people have been making them and all of that. So we're going to make our complete own from scratch so it fits our specific needs. So for this, we're going to do assets first, and then later in the tutorial, we'll do shots. So you'll hit asset and see we have all of these that's already been made. But the issue with these is other people have access to them, which means they can change them at any time, delete them at any time, or change the colors at any time, which is very scary. So that's why we're going to make our own for this project. So we're going to go and first, we're going to do concept art. We're just going to go in that order. And for me personally, I like to have a concept art, model, texture, and rig pipeline steps for assets. This is 3D assets, of course. You can get more in depth with that with like UVing and such. However, I just make those tasks because since they're a little bit smaller than rather than the big picture. All the pipeline step does is more of, you know, making it look prettier and all of that. And we're going to make a little rainbow with it. You'll see. So I'm going to make the short code. I'm going to put Con and I'm going to put Jillian. But I would recommend doing your project name instead. And then for color, like I said, we're going to do a rainbow. So since this is the start of the pipeline, we're going to make it red. Look at that. And we can go back in and edit the color if we don't like the shades. And then we're going to do select. Make sure you're doing this too. You're going to hit select unarchived and template projects. And we're going to find our project. It's going to take a, oh, there it is. Jillian. There's my little project right there. So we're not going to hit any other project. So no one else is going to see this. No one's going to have access to it. No one's going to edit it. It's going to be amazing. And then we're going to create our step. And now we're going to repeat that for the other pipeline steps. All right, now that all of our pipeline steps have been made, we're going to make our tasks template now. So we're going to go back in the top right where our little icon is. We're going to scroll down and there's going to be a task template button. So once again, we're going to focus for assets, and then later we'll talk about shot task templates. So we're going to hit add task template. So for the name, please name your project. As you can see, I can see every single task template that has ever been made. So if I just put asset task template, well, there's 100 others. So we're going to make it original to our own. So for me, I'm just going to put Jillian example asset, and then entity type. Like I said, we're going to do asset. And then no description really needed. And then we're going to create task template. So we're going to scroll down until we find our little task template. It's in order right now of like when the first one and all the way to the latest one. So we're going to hit Jillian example asset. So here's our page. It's a little blank and scary. So what we're going to do is hit the task tab. And here's our little orders. So we have sort order, task's name, status, description, assigned to, start date, due date, duration, pipeline step, upstream dependency, and downstream dependency, and reviewer. And we'll go over dependencies later. But if you do not see these columns, all you have to do is hit this little add column right here, and you'll find them all right here for you to add in. And if there's other things you want to add, put them in. So we're going to create our new task. So my advice is to do a rough estimate of like an average of how long certain tasks are going to be. We can edit these later on. And remember, this is just the base template that we're going to use. And we also want to try to mirror the naming convention we're doing within our pipeline. So I'm going to do the naming convention of my film right now. So what we have is the film little shorthand and the name of the model. So we're going to make my character Diagoro, and then the top, and then the pipeline step, which is concept art, and we have it as cons. And then once we have a name, we're going to go to pipeline step, and we see these fresh ones we just made up here. We're going to select them. So I'm first going to do concept art, and then we're going to leave assigned to blank unless you only have one concept artist. Then I guess you can go ahead and put them in, but I would just leave that blank. Leave start and due dates blank because this is going to change for each individual task. You're not going to do everything at once. But duration is a good one to have in a task template. So I'm going to say roughly for concept art, it's going to take us 14 days. Actually, I'm going to do 11. And then create. And this will make sense more in a minute. So this is what it's going to look like. And then for a little sort order, this is the first step. So I'm going to put 1. And then we're going to continue on. So we're going to do our model. Mod, and then I'm going to hit model. I'm going to put duration. I'm also going to say 11 days. And once again, all solely based off of view. We'll go more into scheduling later in the tutorial. Put a 2. This helps just keep it in like order of the pipeline. That's what the sort order does. And then as mentioned before, there's other pipeline steps that we might have not put in our little pipeline step thing, but we still want to acknowledge it. So for example, UVs, since that's something we do after modeling. And typically for my end of things, it's the modeler that does the UVs. I'm also going to put that in the model pipeline step. And I'm going to put 5 days. Well, all right, so here's all of our tasks right now. So what we're going to do next is our dependencies. So what an upstream dependency is something our task was dependent later or way back when. So up the stream, they were dependent. So the model upstream dependency was concept art. Modeling could not be done without concept art. And so for downstream dependency is, so for my model, what my downstream dependency was, we need a model before we can rig it. So that's later down the line, what depends on it. Up the line, what it depended on was concept art. Later down the line, what depends on it is rigging. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start putting them in. So there is no upstream dependency for concept art, but there is a downstream dependency, and we're just going to do the direct one. We don't have to list out everything. It's a bit much. I'm going to hit mod and look, there it is. Well, just ignore that. It typically does that when you add them. Doesn't mean you did anything bad. All you're going to have to do is refresh the page. So we're going to get to that in a minute. And as you can see, when I put that in, it automatically updated this right here, which is pretty cool. And so for the model, UVs is next. And then after UV, actually, there's two things that can happen. We can texture and rig at once. So for the UV, I'm going to put both the textures and also the rig. Now I'm going to refresh my page. It's going to exit me out as normal. And then we're going to scroll back down. There it is. And look, no more red. And as we can see, this has all been updated. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our assets tab. But oh my gosh, where's our bar? It's because we're no longer in our project. So we need to go back to our project. So what we're going to do is go up here, and this is our like master toolbar, I guess. We're going to hit projects. Oh, look, my little icon. And then we're going to hit assets. And oh my gosh, this page, there's nothing on it. We're going to put so much on it. So first, let's just go ahead and make our assets, and then we'll make the page look pretty. So first, I'm just going to do my character, Diagoro. Make sure you're spelling everything correctly. And so here's our types. As of right now, I do not know how to change these types. This might be something that someone above a manager can do, but I currently do not have that role. So sometimes we got to be a little bit creative. So for me, what I do, let me see, condiments, that's pretty much miscellaneous for me. Environments you can do for environments, characters, storyboards, just have fun with it, you know? But for me, we're just gonna hit character since this is a character. And look, our task template. And look, there's so many. Oh my gosh, there's so many. What we're gonna do is we're gonna type in our task, which was Jillian example asset. And there it is. And we can put a little description of it if we'd like. I'm just gonna put something funny for now. I'm gonna put small guy, but be a little bit more serious when you get there. This is great, especially for smaller items that we don't really know, or like background characters be like, what's this character do again? You could put that there. And I'm gonna add another one. I'm gonna put our, what am I making? I think it's the flute. And then I'm gonna put props. And then I'm gonna put Jillian. It's using my other template. And then boom. So keep on doing that for all of yours. Like I said, you can make more task templates. So if you want to make one specific for characters and a different one for environments, go right ahead. Just make sure it's all under assets. And so now we're going to change the thumbnail. So what I just did was I selected this, and then I'm going to hit over here. There's upload thumbnail. And as before, we're going to go back into here. And I'm going to do this one, actually. So I'm going to open that and create little thumbnails. And like I said, it's going to take a minute for them to load. Upload thumbnail, choose file. And like I said, you probably want the sizes to be more consistent, but you know, we do what we can. So now we're going to make it look pretty. So now we're going to learn about designing pages. So what you're going to do is we have the project actions. It's actually right below. It's this little paper. We're going to hit it, and we're going to hit design page. So this is what our page currently looks like when we first open our assets tab. Look at all of this empty unused space. I don't like it. So we're going to use up all this, or as much space as we can. So I choose to do list view. And right now it's like, why did we do list view? Trust me, there's a process. So like I mentioned before, we had those pipeline steps and we wanted it to be a rainbow. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to add column. We're going to go down to pipeline or pipeline, and then our steps. And then right here, we'll have our little steps that we just made. See, there's a lot of others. We can hide those if we want. We'll just go to manage asset pipeline. And look, there's the steps we made. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and hide those other ones because I don't want to get confused. I'm hiding them. I don't want to know. But yes, so we're going to hide it so it's only the pipeline steps we made. So it makes things a little bit less complicated for us. So we're going to go back. We're going to add the column, scroll down, pipeline, and look, it's just our little steps. So we're going to add a concept art one. As you can see, the rainbow's forming. And then we're going to add a model. And then we're going to add our textures and our rigs. And then lastly, I also like to put the all task. And then I leave this one expanded so we can see a bit more of the big picture of things here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to save the page. And this is how it is. See, we're using up a bit more space of the page. And now we have this little rainbow here. So a bit more into this page. So we have our little rainbow and here's our task. We can actually hover right over it and we can immediately see the assigned to, the start date and the due date, and also the status. And then see we have our model, and then we have our UV, our texture, and our rig. And then everything else will be in detail right here. So let's go into assigning a task. So when we are assigning tasks for an asset, first, it all starts off very rough, and then we're going to refine it a little bit later. So right now we're in our task tab, and see here's our little task names. If it was like we couldn't read it all, we'll just expand it more. And then we have our assigned to right here. And it's pretty simple. So here I'm just going to put, I'm going to have my Everett, the person who actually did make this, I'm going to have him be the one assigned to it again. As you can see, everyone ever made in our ShotGrid is here. So there's some other Everetts, but I have to remember my first and last name of my project people. It's going to hit him right there. And then for me, I am not a modeler, but for the purposes of this exercise, I am a modeler. So right here, look, everything's a little naked still. So watch, the magic's about to happen and it's going to go crazy. And don't worry, we can move things around. So we have the little start date right here. So start dates and due dates are very important. One thing I like to emphasize to my artists is really acknowledge your start date. When it hits the start date is when you should be starting things and we should start to see progress. Due date is when we should final things. And that is a great method to go by if you can. So for my start date, I'm going to have them start on this Monday. And boom, it's all done immediately. Isn't that insane? That's because of our dependencies. So if you see these little arrows right there, that signifies the dependency. So our concept art, the model depends on the concept art. And then once the model's done, the UV can be done. And then once that's done, the textures and the rig is done. And look, it makes a little rainbow. It is up to you what colors you want to do. I like to do rainbows because I know that little order off the top of my head pretty easily. But yeah, so right here, as you can see, it assigned everything. But then again, I'm not going to start on that Friday. I'm going to enjoy my weekend. So actually, my start date is going to be that Monday. So it shifted everything around. And everyone will be notified when your due dates and start dates do change. That is both a blessing and a curse. The blessing part is artists are aware of when their due dates change in real time. The curse is their notifications will go off like crazy. But what I do, I just give them a little heads up. I say, hey guys, I'm going to go in the schedule. So you're going to get a lot of notifications. I'll let y'all know when I think it's final. And see, look, it all moved around. And then also, I kind of want to move this around too. So I can actually just grab and hold this Gantt chart and just move it like that. So I'm going to have it start on the 26th of April, just for the fun of it. So let's say we have our little duration right here, and I want to give myself more time. So I'm going to give myself 30 days to actually do this. Well, boom, something just went red. And so why it went red is because this due date is well after the start date of something that depends on it to be done. So just keep that in mind where you're using downstream dependencies. ShotGrid's going to give you this little danger icon right here and be like, hey, this can't be started at this time because something before it's ending late. So what I'll have to do, I'll hit the little thing right here, and look, it tells me I have a dependency violation. This task starts 14 days earlier than it should. Isn't that handy? And so I'm going to push that start date. So it just automatically adjusts to it. And then boom, our new little pipeline. But yeah, that's the big overall of this. So we're just looking at this asset specific task history right here in our little Gantt view. Gantt is very good for visual learners, but if you're not so much, you have this right here. And it is very fun that this can be updated in real time. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our scheduling tab. But before we do that, we're going to add some phases. So what we're going to do is hit other, and then we're going to scroll down to phases. And so there's no phases right here. So it's in summary, what a phase is. It'll have these little lines in the scheduling tab, and we'll see it earlier. What I like to use phases for specifically for capstone is signifying the start and end of a quarter. So we're going to add a phase by hitting the add phase button. And so for the phase name, I'm actually going to put pre-production since we're in pre-production. And the start date, I'm going to put the start of our quarter, which is the 27th, and then the end of the spring quarter, which is the 31st, because we are a Monday, Wednesday class. But yeah, and so for the color, I'm gonna have it be dark purple, just for the fun of it. And I recommend for your other quarters, have them all be different colors, make sure the colors make sense to you. And right now you're like, what does this do? I'm gonna show you. So we go to schedule. And we have all our little pipeline steps. And look, we have this little purple marker right here. And as we can see, this is going to end after the quarter. So, and I need it done before the quarter. So I can just go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and just shrink that a bit there. So it all stays within the quarter. And that's what it's really good for, is knowing if you're having stuff that's due after the quarter, when it needs to be done within that production period. I'm going to go ahead and randomly assign these a bit more. So I'm going to put Everett down for concept art for this too. And then I'm going to put myself down for modeling for this too. All right, awesome. And now I'm going to reload the page. Wait. And then also what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a random start date. So I'll put it as there. See, look, and now we have our new little pipeline. And so one thing I don't like about the automatic schedule page is it has it sorted by assets, but I can already see the assets under the assets page. When I want my artist to look at the schedule page, I want them to look at their own schedule first. So we're going to do some designing first. So what this page is really good for is the big picture, and that's something we're going to emphasize a lot. So we're going to hit design page, and then we're going to edit this one. We're going to hit filter, my task, and then boom, only my task can appear here. It's magical, it's amazing. And then we're going to hit this little drop down box. We're going to rename this view to personal schedule. Rename. And look, now it says rename. And now we're going to go and hit duplicate view. And we're going to remove that filter. We're going to hit clear all filters. And now we're back to this where it's all sorted by assets. I don't like that. So what we're going to do is hit group. And then we're going to group it by assigned to. So now I can see individual schedules. So here's Everett's schedule, and here's my schedule. And we have the little arrows that actually go from his to mine, so we can see our little dependencies with one another. And then also we're going to sort it by due date. So we're going to hit sort and then due date. And then we're going to rename this. And we're going to hit it and name it crew schedule. And then we're going to hit save. And then boom, look at this change. So now we have these two schedules. So we have our personal schedule. So here's my own schedule. And then we have crew schedule right here. So I can see the entire crew schedule. It's amazing. And that's when we go in here and we start editing things a lot more. We start asking questions of like, do I and the other artists have a fair balance of tasks? And actually, there's one more thing we're going to do. And this is something I have found my teams really enjoy. So we're going to go back to that design page. So what we're going to do is we're going to add these percentages in. And how you do that is you hit status, you do summary, percentage rounded, and we're going to do final. And we'll get back to why final. And then we're going to do show column summaries. And honestly, we're going to hide this one. I don't like this one. So I'm going to right click that and I'm going to hit summary. I'm going to put none for here. So that's gone. And so right now, 0% of our project's final. So how do we show if something got finaled? So we can go into the status here. We have all of these statuses. I'm just going to go over the few that I use a lot. So waiting to start means it's currently depending on something. So right now it isn't. And we're going to say hypothetically it's final. So we're going to hit final. So with that being final, that means my model for Diagoro is ready to start. And let's say right now, this one's actually in progress. So yeah, those are the few statuses I tend to use. Waiting to start means it's something it's depending on isn't done yet, so it can't start. Ready to start means the thing it depends on is done, which means I can start working on it. In progress means it's in progress, and final means it's final. These are other ones you can use, but I typically don't use them. And then right here is our summary for our entire project is 10% done. And so 50% of Everett's tasks are final, but 0% of mine are final. One more thing for scheduling that I almost forgot to mention. Oh my gosh. So one thing that bothers me is when I'm looking at this, it's hard to quickly tell what all is final. All I have is this grayed out box. And honestly, that doesn't look final. That just looks pretty sad. So we're going to make it look pretty cool soon. So what we're going to do is essentially conditional formatting for ShotGrid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click the cell and I'm going to hit format all rows, change color with rules. All right. So these are the automatic conditional formatting rules that we can't really change. So when it's highlighted bright red, that means it is past its due date and it's not been finalized. And you will easily see that bright red. And then light green is when it's currently in progress, but not so much the status, but we're in that time frame between the start date and the due date. Personally, if you're able to change that to yellow, great, but I do not have that permission. But we're going to do another rule. So this one is going to be for the entire row is going to turn dark green when something's final. So I'm going to put dark green row when final. And then I'm going to do status is final. Then the text background is going to be this dark green and it stands out. I'm also going to bold it so we can see it even better. So this is what the little rule is going to be. So when the status is final, the formatting of the cell is going to be dark green and it's going to be bold too. I'm going to hit save. Save. Look at that now. And that rule has been applied to all cells now. So whenever anything else is final, so I'm going to finalize this. I have something final. That also turns dark green. It's a great resource when you're quickly looking at something and you want to know it's final. Sometimes these little boxes are harder to see, but we have this. It really helps with the big picture a lot. And just for the purposes of the exercise, I'm going to make something look super late. So this thing was actually due. We're going to have it do the 22nd. Oh my gosh. Look at all that red. So that's what it looks like when it's late, if you're curious. And so how do I upload? Like I have concept art for the flute. Where do I upload that? Do I go to overview? No. Overview page, we'll look at it more and what we can use with it, but do not go here and just put insert and add. Sometimes it doesn't even upload correctly. It's easily lost. We can't track it. So do not do this. And I'm going to show you the quickest and easiest way to upload a new version. So we're going to go up here to the main tab. I'm going to hit my task. And as you can see, I can see all of my project tasks ever are right here. And when they're final, they do disappear. So I'm going to right click this one. I'm going to hit new version. I'm going to upload my media. So this is the flute concept art. And look, it automatically does my version name. And make sure to always put in the description what you did. I changed the colors from blue to yellow. But yeah, be a bit more descriptive than that, but that's just the example. As we can see our task right here, which is our flute concept art, the link, which was that asset we made, so flute, and then we're going to make sure we want to put it to our project, delete an example. And we're going to hit create version. We're going to upload for a minute, and then we're going to go back here, hit our overview, and as we can see, it's uploaded. So this is great for a quick reference, being like, oh, who's uploading? Where are they uploading? And we'll go into it in a second, how to write notes for our upload stuff. But before we make our notes for dailies, we need to make playlists. So how we're going to make playlists is we're going to hit this review tab up here. I'm going to hit add playlist. And so I typically do the name, the day. And so for playlist names, I typically do the day. So I'm going to do 03/25/23 dailies. And sometimes if we're doing a specific part of production, maybe this is just concept art, I'll put like concept art. But to each their own, but this is what I do. I don't do much of a description. I have recently started putting thumbnails for my dailies, just for the fun of it. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to versions, and we're going to hit link versions right here, not add versions, link versions. I'm going to hit link versions, advanced, and look, there's our little version. As you can see right now, it's very empty, so there's nothing else here. But eventually this will be full, and there's going to be pages and pages of them. So eventually what you're going to do is hit date created, and we're going to do like latest, and then also we're going to put in playlist. So I can see if it's ever been a playlist, and it's not. And it actually has not even been viewed. And we'll talk about these statuses in a second. So I'm going to hit the little check mark, marks, and hit link selected. And look, there it is. So when we're in the dailies, and typically this is the point of view for the director and the rest of the crew to see. So when we're sharing it on the big screen, this is how you're going to set up your playlist and how they will do notes. But as producers and production assistants, there's actually a different way we'll be doing notes. So you're going to hit the little play on the thumbnail, and then boom, there it is. And you'll actually be able to click through. There's other stuff by hitting these arrows. But let's see what all we have here. I've actually added in more fields here than what's typically there. How you can edit this is you'll just hit more fields, and then there's all the other stuff. I typically put in the task and then also the due date. So I go down here to linked fields, task, and then the due date. Just so we're presenting in dailies, I know immediately when this is going to be due soon. And then look, so this hasn't been viewed yet. So actually, we're going to view it now. And look, it's been viewed. Isn't that cool? And if it's been approved, put that. Or if maybe like, oops, this is a misupload, or actually, never mind, we're not doing this, I'll put NA. But for the purpose of the exercise, I can put viewed. And then for notes, you could put notes here, like, cool. And then you can also, and one big important thing to do is if you're like, I'm going to do some annotating, and we have all these little buttons right here. Maybe, you know, let's actually, we're going to do a little arrow, and I'm actually going to put here, add 5 more. You have to, whenever you do annotations, you have to have a comment, a note with it. You can't do an annotation and then go to the next thing. It will not save. You need to put the annotations here, some sort of note, and then hit submit. And then let it load. And as you'll see, there's our little annotated frames. It's been loaded. And then we have some tools down here. We have a little magnifying glass. You always hit R to reset. We have a move. We have a loop, which we don't really need for this since this is a still image. We have full screen, and I can exit that for that to go away. And then we have other settings here, which we'll go into more later. But if we wanted to download this, we would hit view source file and then right click and save image. You cannot right click from this playlist and hit save image. It won't save it. But now, well, let me hit R. And now I can exit out. Oh, nice. And then we can go back to our little overview. And then we can see the timeline of when I've changed statuses and when the notes have been there. So now we're going to look at the producer's perspective of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to apps, and then we're going to go and hit review notes. So I want to go to my project and then today's dailies. And then boom, here's all of our stuff. So what this is very nice is, so you'll have everything up here, all the assets. You can go back and forth in writing notes, because sometimes what will happen in dailies, you'll look at the flute and be like, wait, I want to see the character. And then we'll look at the character, write notes for the character, then go back to the flute. It's back and forth, back and forth. It's crazy. But maybe I have notes. And one thing to do, you could do a dash, space, note, splash date, note, and this will automatically actually make bullet points. And then how we will upload this. So we're going to hit preview and publish, send all notes, and then we're going to hit create summary email. So 2 is going to be this is going to send to their ShotGrid account email. So whatever account was registered under a certain email, this is the email it will send to. And then CC is going to be for external emails. So for this, I'm going to put myself. I'll put my group. I'll put that little note right here. Or maybe if there's something big change, like production meeting Sunday, you can put announcements like that there. And what this will do, it'll send them an email and it'll have all of the notes for the day listed out. All these notes will also be automatically saved and uploaded to ShotGrid too, all at once. So it's gonna be a crazy swarm of notes. I'll hit send notes. And then close. And then now it's all been saved right there. We can see our little note history and we can exit out of here. It's great. All right, so for this next step, what we're going to do is start creating our sequences and shots. So I do advise you to hold off on this until your animatic is final. I know sometimes our shots do change minorly during production, and that is okay. It is all good if we change a few shots rather than changing up an entire shot list of sequences and all that. That's when things get messy. So just hold off on this step until you have your finalized animatic. So first, just like our assets, we're going to make pipeline steps again, specifically for this production. So we're going to go to our little icon. We're going to go down to pipeline steps. And then instead, we're going to make the entity type for shots. Yes. All right, just like before, we're going to add pipeline steps. So we're going to go to entity pipeline. We're going to hit shot. And then we're going to start going through here. Ignore these. I kind of messed up a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to start typing in our steps. And what I want to do this time around is making sure our short code actually has the entire name and not just my name in it, because this is what we're going to see in the sequences tab later on. So we're just going to go through here and add in all the pipeline steps. once that is done, we're going to make our task template. So just before, we're going to go and hit our icon. We'll scroll down to our task templates. And then as before, we're going to add a task template. We're going to make sure we put our project name first. And then entity type, we're going to do shot. And so this is going to be the base template for all of our shots. And so just like before, we can edit this later on, or we're just going to go through the pipeline. And then as before, we have all of our little pipeline steps. And as before, I'm also going to put in my sort order. All right, awesome. So right here, we have our task template. So just some things to keep in mind. Like I mentioned before, when you use this template for other shots, make sure you are editing the task names, as these will not automatically reflect what your shot number is. Also durations, you can change these, of course, for shots. And then one thing especially is downstream dependencies and upstream dependencies. So sometimes these have very weird things shot by shot, especially when it comes to effects within animation, effects, lighting, and compositing. Sometimes this order can change around, and then sometimes some shots might not need effects. So within that shot, we can just delete some pipeline steps. And so here is our final task template. So for me, like I said before, this can change around depending on what your pipeline will look like. But roughly, color scripts downstream dependency is going to be lighting, but also effects can play into that too. Layouts downstream is animation. And then animations downstream is 2D effects and also 3D effects and lighting. So I'm going to go ahead and also just put in lighting, because sometimes effects are not always in shots. And then 2D effects downstream is compositing, 3D's effects downstream is lighting, and then lighting's downstream is compositing. So now we're going to go and make our sequences. So to make our sequences, we're just going to go to the sequences page. And honestly, I don't design this page too much, since I don't really stay on the sequences page. I stay on the individual sequences page. But for the page of all sequences, this can be just plain and simple. And for those who are in their fall quarter doing their proof of concept right now and doesn't have a final animatic, I recommend just making a separate sequence alone just for the proof of concept shot, rather than try to integrate it into an entire shot list, because sometimes your proof of concept shot is not the actual shot that'll end up in the film. So for us, I'm going to use my naming conventions for the sequence. And then I'll create my sequence, and then you'll just do this for the rest of them. So here is our empty sequences page. Now this, we're going to go so crazy on. And now this is the thing I referenced at the very, very beginning of my video of what Walt Disney Animation Studios uploaded. They uploaded an image of their Encanto, one of their songs sequences page, and it was amazing. And I copied it basically. And that's basically what I'm going to show you, how we can somewhat mimic what they had. So we're going to go back to design page. And then we're going to hit the shots tab. And the shots tab is actually going to be our home page tab. So we're going to edit the tab order. And I'm going to make shots first. It's going to save that. So now that the shots tab is our first tab, it'll become our default tab. So now we're going to make our shot list. So I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to start putting in shots. I'm not going to put in the descriptions yet. I'll go back and do all of the fancy stuff later. And it's so easy now. I'm just going to make a few shots. But yes, so you'll just go in and you'll just put in the shot codes. It's very important that you are putting a numerical shot code, that it's all follows in order, because if not, it's going to look very wonky in a future thing I will show you all. And make sure we are using our task template. So I'm only going to put 3 shots in for right now. And right now it's pretty barren. So the first thing we're going to do is thumbnails. I don't have any thumbnails on my hand, so I'm just going to use this for my placeholder. But what's really good for thumbnails would be screenshots of the animatic. And then once you have color scripts, definitely use those for your thumbnails. It looks very nice. But for the purposes of this, I'm just going to put this image in just so we can give it, some space, which is very nice. The thumbnails, especially if you're doing color scripts, it helps make the reference very quick and easy for compositing and lighting. All right, so this is what our page looks like. Still pretty barren. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add some columns in. So the order we want is shot code, thumbnail, and then frames. So what we're going to do is hit add column, manage shot fields, and make frames visible. For some reason, they were gone. If you can't find them, this is where you're going to go. I just spent the last 5 minutes looking for them. So then we're going to go back here, add, and then look, there it is, frames. We're going to add it. I'm going to move him over here. And then I'm going to add tags. So personally, what I use tags for is I do shot difficulty. So when I'm doing shot assignments and all that, this is my reference for shot difficulty. And I'll show you how to put all the information in later. And then I have tags and then description. So this is going to be your shot descriptions. And then sequence, you can keep this if you'd like or not. I'm just going to keep it there. And then I'm going to do my pipeline steps. So we're going to go here, pipeline steps, and I'm going to go ahead and just manage my shot pipeline. So I'm only seeing my pipeline. So I'm going to go ahead and hide all of these. And then lastly, we have our pipeline steps. So what we're going to do is go down here, pipeline, and here's all of our steps. We're going to just start adding them all in. And actually, we can quickly just hit show all. And then I'm going to move them all over and I'm going to start making my rainbow. So like I said before, my rainbow is a little bit different. It's still in rainbow order, but the rainbow starts with pink and purple instead of red. But that's just what makes sense in my head. It's all up to you on how you want to do it. And see here, we have all of our pipeline steps. So we have color script, layout, 3D animation, 2D effects, 3D effects, lighting, and compositing. And then also we have the all task thing here if you chose to keep it. I'm going to close out. I'm going to hide open notes. I don't use it, but I'm also going to add in assets instead. So this is good for quick reference. If you need to know what important assets in this shot, you can put that here. So if oh, I can't start this shot yet, because I remember we have a mountain in here that the character interacts with, that we got to wait a minute until the mountain is done. But yeah, that's what this page is going to look like. For descriptions for the sequence, my personal preference, and this can be different for people, I like to do the description of the opening shot and the final shot. So for descriptions, what we're going to do is here, I'm going to put the shot type and then a description. So I'm going to do a medium shot of them opening a window. And then I'm going to do extreme close-up of the glass breaks. And then our final shot is going to be a wide shot of him falling to the ground. Diagonal falls to the ground. This does not happen in the film. Sorry if I thought I was giving it away. And so how I do my description, I actually don't summarize the scene. Instead, what makes a bit more sense to me is I do the description of the opening shot and then the ending shot. That's so I know when does this sequence starts and when does it end. So what I'll do, I'll just highlight. And what I'll do is I'll go here and I'll do opening a window. And my descriptions are not amazing, you know, think them out a little bit better. And then I'll do diagonal balls. Boom. So I have an idea of how long this sequence is. I know like, oh, there's only 3 shots in this sequence because there's only one other shot between these two. And I know what it is. So that's just what makes more sense in my head. But yeah. And then also you can do a thumbnail for this. What I would do my thumbnail for, I would do the thumbnail of the first shot in the sequence. I know sometimes we want to do the shot that best represents the sequence, but once again, what makes sense for me is I like to see the beginning and end rather than like a weird summary of things. Because sometimes it's harder to figure out when sequences cut off sometimes in film. But yeah, that's that. And I'm going to hit save. And boom, we have our new shot page. It's amazing. So when we go to sequences, and then we'll hit our sequence right here. And then boom, here it is. And then as we're going, so if we start working on stuff, we can start doing in progress, and then we can finalize stuff. Boom, isn't that amazing? Our final thing, we're actually going to leave this example project, and I'm going to show you a little sneak peek at what my project's looking like right now, so we can use this tool better. So what we're going to do is screening room. Now this is a magical tool. So I'll show you all what that means in a second. So I'll go to my project and I'll show you the current look at things. So if you're curious what a more in progress sequences page looks like, this is what it looks like from my end. As you can see, we got a lot of finals, ready to start, waiting to start, especially with our pipeline. This is great to quickly look at. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit a shot, and you can look at any shot version you like. We're going to go to versions, and I'm actually going to go to, I'm going to find a random version of a shot. So we're going to do a lot today, guys. It's going to be crazy. So what I'm going to do when I have a shot version up, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to hit this little settings icon. I'm going to put play in screening room. I'll let that load for a second. And we're going to do a lot because my screening room's a little everywhere right now. So the first thing to notice is all these little color boxes. That actually represents all of those pipeline steps we made earlier. So I want to see specifically this little sequence, this part of the sequence right now, and I want to see it in order. I don't want to go in Premiere and cut this all together. I want to see it right now because maybe someone just uploaded something and we quickly need to see it. So I'm going to highlight this. Or actually, yeah, I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to put play selected. And if you don't see all of these options, you'll go to the clock and you'll see how many versions you can see per a shot. And actually, I want to see this version of the shot. So I'm going to double click that first. So I want to see which versions I want to see. Actually, I want to see this version of the shot too. So there, I'm going to highlight it and I'm going to put play selected. And I can look quickly here to know what I'm looking at. So here I'm going to be looking at some lighting. This is going to be some compositing. And this is going to be some effects, which this was some of our shot sculpting. So now that I play it, boom, look at that. It all automatically cuts all together. And I can scroll through here. And as you can see over here, it updates the sidebar. So this is all the commenting by the lighter of this. And then this is all the stuff for the compositor for here. And then this is all the stuff for the special effects that was done here. It's a very great and helpful tool when you're quickly trying to look at sequences together. Some things to keep in mind, sometimes sound can be a little wonky when you're doing this. And also ShotGrid likes to eat frames sometimes. So the frame count might not always be 100% up to date. This is just very great to look at quickly for continuity's sake. But when you're doing your actual shots compiled all together, make sure you are eventually going into Premiere and doing that. And one thing you might notice is right now you might see seconds rather than frame counts. And you're like, how did you do that? So I went to this little setting. I put display current frame as. I did time code instead of frame number. I'm going to go back to frame number. But just keep it in mind. Sometimes frames shave off. And yeah, look, I can scroll through this little tiny sequence and I can highlight it all and show everything, but I don't want to spoil everything yet, guys. But yeah, that's how we use the screening room. It's a very great tool. A lot of people love using it very quickly for continuity's sake. But yes, that's it. All right, and that is the end of my tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've learned some stuff, especially those who may be watching this for their capstone film. If not for your capstone film, I hope you did learn a cool new tool or two while watching this. It's a great tool to use. If you're thinking about using it, I highly recommend using it. It helps put a lot of stuff in one place, helps dailies, asset tracking, scheduling. It all puts it in one place. We're all on the same page together. This tool is used in the industry so much, so it's very important to learn it. So I try to make this tutorial, make it look less intimidating and just do this walkthroughs. There's a lot of resources online, so look through. If you have any questions, I'd love to try my best to answer. Just feel free to message me. But yes, that is the end of my tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching.